Talking to Myself by Jonathan Wright. Narrated by Jonathan Wright. The trouble with the fear of failure is with it we must agree to the terms of servitude it brings. We can only climb as high as our fears, after all. And isn't it interesting failing can't exist in our psyche without an attached fear? A mountain climber wouldn't give up his desire to conquer the peak with a momentary slip of his foot, yet this is what we do in our lives. One momentary setback can cause us to give up and say we aren't made of the right stuff, or this isn't our life purpose. We often define our limits based on where we failed. It was a double-wide trailer in a small trailer park, spring of 1990. Due to the fallout of rising interest rates and an economic crash, my father lost his business, as well as the house he'd built with his bare hands. Forced to move his family of 13 to this humble abode, far from the upscale charm of carefree Arizona. I can still remember the room I shared with 7 of my siblings. It was a 10 by 11 carpeted room, with a sheet covering the windows. Mattresses lined the floors, leaving little room to walk. Each night was like an odd drill. We would take turns showering with washcloths in front of a sink, brush our teeth, and march off to rest on our assigned mattress. Fast forward to June of 1991. My family sold the trailer, and we set out in small RVs, attempting to head to Tennessee. Failing to find work, Father was forced to drive us back to Phoenix in order to raise more funds. We found ourselves back in the little mobile home rental until finally, January of 1993, we set out again for Nashville, Tennessee. I watched my father fail, and it took me a long time to see the magic behind it. The truth is, failure doesn't exist in the physical world. One can choose to fail. The interesting thing about that choice is, it's a choice, and the forthcoming belief system we build around that choice can only hold as much power as we give it. Failure is a belief system we create based on desired events. Admission of failure encourages us to give up, to quit. Remember the mountain climber? He slipped and kept going. He knew what he wanted to do, and every slip or stumble told him what wouldn't support him. This is the process of the hero's journey. We all hold a hero within, someone who longs to do great things, and until we find that person within, it's impossible to see the same truth in others. We don't deserve to fail, and the only reason we allow ourselves to believe we have is because we believe we don't deserve to succeed. The mountain climber keeps going on a stumble, not because he's immune to stumbles, but rather because he feels he deserves to see the peak. At 18 years of age, my father Charles had done more than most 30-year-olds of today. He was head chef of a restaurant, and he ran a flight school teaching people to fly airplanes. At 19 years of age, he was driving a brand new Corvette and wearing $500 suits. This was at a time in the U.S. when minimum wage was $1.15 per hour. Seemingly, one could say my father had it together. What set Charles apart from other people? It seemed like no matter what he did, he was undaunted by failure. He expected it, and what's more, he embraced it when it came. He didn't live in the maybe category of people. I believe I can tell you exactly how my father got his can-do attitude, though he never said it. At 7 years of age, he walked the streets of Brooklyn, New York. Even back then, kids formed gangs and would teach kids passing through their territory a lesson via a beating. And after enough lessons, Charles fought back. He learned that if you hit the leader of the gang, the rest would scatter. So as soon as he would see a fight about to start, he would jump on the loudest talker and avoid getting jumped and beaten. Charles didn't have the luxury some kids had, because when he went home with a torn and bloodied shirt, his father would hit him for having ruined his clothes. I think that's where he got it. He didn't have a choice to accept failure where most people would, because even in failure, he would get another beating. This was his routine for years. Imagine if every time you decided to quit trying, someone bigger than you appeared and beat you up. That's what life's doing to you now. At what point do we get tired of the double beating and just do our best in whatever stops us on our path? For everyone it's different, and the key lies in knowing there's no other alternative to achieve anything worth having or being. The truth I learned from my father's example is a law of nature. Defeat doesn't exist when you truly want to win. You've always been in control. You have the power to move your life. Though we can't always control the actions of others, we do control whether we learn and adapt and keep moving forward. We can always reach the peak if we keep climbing. Having a wife and 13 children, you would think someone in Charles's position would be terrified to move cross-country with little money, no work lined up, no business contacts, and the fresh memory of already having tried and failed to do so 6 months prior. Charles possessed something that both marveled and scared me at the same time: his unrelenting belief that everything was going to work out. He knew no matter what happened, he could always do something else. My father's faith in God and his work ethic saw to it we never missed a meal or went without any necessities. So how do we build a belief system like Charles? One strong enough to move us past the point of giving up at every turn? We first have to believe we deserve it deep down. Next, we need to believe what we want can be achieved with the tools we have on hand. The mind likes to create obstacles when we set out on our goals. It wants the perfect conditions for everything. So many times I've started to build something, and after brainstorming, come to the conclusion I don't have the necessary materials to make it the way I ideally would like it to be. The result? I ended up doing nothing after wasting more than a few hours of valuable time. Why do we continually come to a point at which we want change in our lives, and upon resolving to make change, we spend a day or two dreaming up the best courses of action, only to half-heartedly start a routine which we quickly abandon? Fear. Fear is a belief that we are limited, when the truth is we are unlimited. Consider the phenomena of hysterical strength. People momentarily forget their limitations and perform extraordinary feats of strength. This is commonly misattributed to the latent effects of adrenaline. The issue we must take with this conclusion is chemicals can't and don't force a system to operate outside its physical bounds without leaving deep systemic scarring behind. Think of the result of an explosion. With adrenal studies, the subjects only felt physical pains once they were made aware they had done something outside the realm of physical reality. In other words, they believed they needed to do something to the extent they forgot they weren't capable of doing it, and the belief carried them through to a positive result. Then, when they became aware of the fact they had done something superhuman, they then believed they should feel some side effect from their activity. As soon as they were made aware of their feat of strength, within moments they would feel the side effects. Physics doesn't drive our beliefs. Belief drives our physics. People have fallen out of airplanes without parachutes at 10,000 feet and lived to tell the tale. The unexplained happens all around us all the time. Knowing what you now know, you can't continue being who you've been without the awareness that you're choosing to be that person. You are always making choices in your life, which are controlled by your belief in what you feel you deserve. So the issue we face in life isn't that we aren't capable, but rather we believe we aren't capable. We believe we aren't good enough because of the false belief we are undeserving. And we build a life to match that belief. Now, we can see the fear of failure in its true light. Our failures weren't the great stumbling blocks in our way, which we believed them to be. They were merely an excuse we could use to let ourselves off the hook from actually doing something, because deep down, we believed we didn't deserve to achieve whatever it was we set out to accomplish. Where did this belief, we don't deserve, come from? We've carried it around with us our entire lives. Perhaps we should refer back to Charles once more. Charles was constantly beaten by the world. His father was an alcoholic who didn't want children from the beginning, and he constantly reminded Charles of this fact. One Christmas, Charles's father thought it would be funny to wrap ever smaller packages inside a large box and give it to him for his present. After opening package after package, only to reveal a smaller package within, young Charles arrived at a tiny package with his name on it. He opened it to find it was empty. That was his 5th Christmas. It's easy to see why someone like Charles would be driven with a strong belief he deserved better, because he was always left seeing everyone else get more, which in some cases was just getting anything at all. Now we must come to an uncomfortable realization. The reason we don't feel we deserve better is because we are taking more than we are giving in our lives. It's impossible to believe we deserve more than we are giving. That's a universal truth. Whatsoever you sow, that ye shall also reap. Galatians 6:7. In order to achieve what you want out of life, you must have given enough back to the world in order to have a strong belief to drive you to the finish line. So how much do you want in life? That's the amount to give. Do you want everything? Give everything. Billionaires understand this principle. The more money a person acquires, the more you'll see them dive into philanthropy. Mackenzie Scott, formerly Bezos, has donated $6 billion of her fortune to humanitarian aid projects and charities. Bill and Melinda Gates, with their Gates Foundation, have shaped the world more than any single couple in modern times. All the wealthy and successful people in life give more than they take. The next time you feel a lack in your life, be it financial, emotional, or physical, that's the area in your life in which you need to give more. Dr. David R. Hawkins said it best. People act as mirrors, reflecting back at us the part of ourselves which we dislike. The universe seems to behave in the same way. So the next time you find an area in which you have need, look for a way around you to give that desire. If you want love, give it. If you want wealth, live it. Life is a plus or a minus, a positive or a negative. It either is or it isn't. You can't receive something without first creating an empty space somewhere else. Can you? And if you haven't been giving, you have no empty space within to receive. All this time we believed the object of life was to get. And where did that lead us? Depression. Sleeping on a mattress on the floor at age 30, the same as I had done at age 5. People calling, asking to hang out, and all you wanted to do was sleep forever. It took many years to figure out the problem, though quite by accident. Depression is anger directed at oneself, and we found ourselves in its death grip. It was fueled by the constant taking we had done in our social life, with family, with the people who loved us. We couldn't receive another thing from the universe. We hated ourselves, and we tried to escape with alcohol binges and weekend partying. All the while, the self-hatred kept you from being able to enjoy anything, because deep down, we knew we didn't deserve it. The year was 2013. It was in a small office working for a large shoe distributor here in Middle Tennessee, where we had a first glimpse out of the despair. The workers with which we shared the office were highly competent, and you were somehow their supervisor. They were long-suffering in their duty of trying to help you understand a world which was foreign to you. The shifts were uneventful, to say it politely, and in order to break up the monotony, we would take turns going to the break room and retrieving a snack. This eventually turned into the workers getting each other items, which led to us buying each other snacks. You had never felt this before, giving. You had never given because you were internally poor. You believed you could never replace anything you gave, be it emotional, physical, or financial. As weeks went by, you started ordering food for yourself and the members of the office. This turned into ordering food for everyone in the department. The interesting thing is, you didn't go broke doing it. In fact, it seemed like someone always chipped in enough that you didn't miss the funds that were spent. What you received in return was temporary freedom from the wall you'd built. You were giving without worrying about losing. There was room to receive again, and what you received was sent back out. The butterfly effect states a small change in a system creates a large change down the road. How much different has life become as you start to open up about your fears and the reasons behind them? Do you remember being paralyzed with anxiety at the thought of someone thinking less of you? You created your entire life, your wardrobe, your speech around what others thought. Even the brand of cigarette you smoked was making a statement on what you wanted people to think of you. You had trouble walking across an open room because even when others were oblivious to your presence, internally you felt they were watching and judging you, and you weren't good enough. All of the fear, like an invisible leash, kept you from doing what you truly wanted to do. Then the day came when you forgave yourself for being human. That day you saw the humanity in everyone else. You wept, and those tears set you free. For the first time in your life, you could forgive others for their flaws because you knew you were only seeing them because they first existed in you. You could laugh at yourself because the freedom from fear allowed you to realize everyone you thought laughed at you were really just laughing at themselves. We are all one. The Bible calls it the body of Christ. We are all part of one system. We all carry a spark of God, of divine infinity, and we all create with our words the life or death we speak. Sound is frequency. Light exists on this frequency band along with all states of matter. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. We are only separate from all forms of animal life due to our ability to form words. That's the spark of divinity, and we create our life based on the words we speak. How many times have you said, "I'm not good enough," or "I wish I could, but I can't"? How many times have you defeated yourself with your words? Then you became hyper-aware of your statements about yourself and others. You realized your words planted in the subconscious and came to life. They say a lie repeated often enough becomes truth. So, if words are so powerful that we can change lies into truth with them, how much more careful have you learned to be with them? Sound travels for eternity, and the sounds our ancestors made are vibrating somewhere out there in the cosmos right now. We hold the key to the future in our mouths. Life is also a choice between love and fear. We are either motivated by love in our daily activities, or we are motivated by fear. Do you go to work every day out of love or fear? Do you love what you add to the world through your work, or do you fear poverty and homelessness, thus you go to work? Do you love the people in your life due to what you can add to their lives, or do you fear losing them so you do what you think they would want in order to keep them? Remember the wall you built? You built it out of fear. People disappointed you, so you shut everyone away from the true you. Fear breaks down and limits. Love builds and completes. The reason the news is always posting negative, fear-inducing stories is because these are the headlines that stir the fear which create the headlines. Look at any small-town paper, and you'll see boring posts about Farmer Bob's prize-winning cow. Then open up a major media website, and in big bold letters you will see something along the lines of, "The sky is falling. A lone pickle thief is struck again in what authorities are calling the actions of a possible serial pickle thief. Residents are advised to guard their pickles. Stay tuned to News 5 for more." Fear creates fear. Ignore the fear, and your only alternative is to love. If your motivation is to love someone, you can't fear them. Fear toward another person can only exist in you if you subconsciously wish them harm. Remember the mirror reflection? It's worth saying again. Who you fear is who you wish to harm. So we see we can lose the fear of people by wishing them good and following up with actions where we can. Love and fear can't exist in the same place at the same time. It's the law. When we release the fear of others harming us, we release that energy in ourselves where it actually resides. To all the other me's reading these words, your best life is before you, waiting. And whenever you find yourself hyper-aware of the problems in your life, just know the answer lies within you. And all the people you meet in your travels, those people are you as well, with their own problems and their own answers to find. Humanity is the eighth wonder of the world. There are almost 8 billion other yous out there. Some overcame their fear and are lauded in the media. Some were caught up in the fear of starvation and they stole. Others believed the lie they weren't enough and they never tried. It's worth looking inside to see the truth of where you are in your progression. What's the worst that can happen? Will you look in and see a failure? Or will you perhaps look inside and see someone who never gave themselves a chance? Perhaps you will see someone who was condemned from the beginning, someone who the teachers said would never amount to anything, or their parents said they weren't good enough. Perhaps you'll see someone with value, a person worthy of at least an audition on the stage of life. Nobody sets out to make mistakes on purpose, because everybody is operating on a belief system based in either love or fear. Remember, we are always in a state of drawing something to us with love, or we are in a state of running away from something in fear. The day we look inside and realize we were never broken, we were merely operating under the wrong beliefs, that's the day we can forgive ourselves and see the same truth in others. That marks the end of part 1 of this book series. Copyright 2021, all rights reserved.